August 8, 1944, Hauptmann Michael Wittmann, a legendary German tank commander, was witnessing the end of the war, though he wouldn't know it for only a few minutes longer. His 4 Tiger tanks had just destroyed 27 Shermans, achieving a magnificent 7-to-1 exchange ratio. Yet, through his binoculars, Wittmann saw 48 more Shermans advancing from 3 directions, with columns of dust suggesting dozens more behind them. His Tigers were low on armor-piercing ammunition and had no fuel for major maneuvers. Wittmann's final radio transmission captured the despair of every German tanker facing overwhelming American production. Ammunition erschöpft, Gegner unbegrenzt, ammunition exhausted, enemy unlimited. He was not fighting a battle, but a demonstration of industrial arithmetic. The German belief in quality over quantity began on May 26, 1941, when prototypes for the Tiger tank were presented to Hitler. Mesmerized by its massive 88mm gun and impenetrable armor, Hitler declared that one Tiger would be worth a battalion of ordinary tanks and would destroy a dozen enemy vehicles. The Führer's order set the tone for Germany's fatal miscalculation. Quality would triumph over quantity. Each Tiger was intended to be a masterpiece, handcrafted by skilled workers, which Hitler assured his staff Americans could never match. The first Tiger, completed on August 4, 1942, required 300,000 man-hours, 26,000 parts, and a transmission hand-fitted by master craftsmen. Oberst Wolfgang Thomale, watching the trials, wrote that the war would be won if Germany could produce 100 Tigers per month. Germany never consistently met that goal. The peak production achieved in April 1944 was 104 tanks. In contrast, the American production philosophy began with a phone call on May 28, 1940, when President Roosevelt asked William Knudsen, former president of General Motors, to build 50,000 planes and 50,000 tanks. Knudsen's defining response was, "Mr. President, we can't build the best planes and tanks, but we can build the most planes and tanks, and we can build them so that any kid from Iowa can fix them with a wrench and a screwdriver." The Sherman tank emerged from this pragmatic view. A good-enough tank that was simple enough for inexperienced workers to build, had interchangeable parts, and was designed for field maintenance by the crew. Major General Gladian Barnes, head of Army Ordnance, summed up the goal: "I don't want a perfect tank. I want a good-enough tank that we can build 1,000 of them for every 100 the Germans build." The factories revealed the stark difference. At Henschel's plant, 9,000 skilled workers hand-built Tigers in what looked like a scaled-up medieval guild workshop, with each tank taking days of detailed craftsmanship. Meanwhile, Chrysler's Detroit tank arsenal, covering 1.25 million square feet, larger than all German tank factories combined, was staffed by former automobile workers, housewives, and teenagers. They adapted automobile assembly techniques, breaking the Sherman into modular components. Rose Willie Monroe, the original Rosie the Riveter, described the process. "Everything was broken down into simple steps. I'd weld one seam, the tank would move, someone else would weld the next. We'd finish a tank in 4 hours. The entire process, from raw steel to a completed Sherman, took only 48 hours. By December 1942, the Detroit tank arsenal alone was producing 896 Shermans per month. Across 11 American and Canadian factories, total monthly production was approximately 3,500 Shermans. German monthly Tiger production during the same period was 34 tanks. The ratio was 103-to-1. General Major Heinz Guderian, upon receiving these intelligence figures in January 1943, wrote succinctly in his diary, "If these numbers are even half true, we have already lost the war." The disparity multiplied American advantages. With thousands of Shermans available, American crews trained extensively on actual tanks at places like Fort Knox. They learned every sound and every tool needed, becoming intimately familiar with their simple, reliable machines. A Sherman had 15,000 parts and required 50 tools for field maintenance. In contrast, Germany's tank training facilities had only 4 Tigers for training purposes for all units in the Wehrmacht. German crews whose Tigers had 26,000 parts and required 230 specialized tools spent most of their time studying diagrams and sitting in wooden mock-ups, with many having only 3 days in an actual Tiger before combat. American crews could reach basic competence in 4 weeks, while Tiger crews needed 3 months to reach minimal proficiency. D-Day marked the beginning of the final mathematical demonstration. The Allies landed with 4,000 tanks, mostly Shermans, against Germany's total of approximately 430 operational Tigers on all fronts, with only 102 in Normandy itself. The replacement rate told the real story. When America lost a Sherman, a new one arrived from depot stocks in England within 48 hours, often repaired by mobile workshops or simply replaced with a new vehicle. When Germany lost a Tiger, replacement took weeks or months, and only 17 of the 45 Tigers dispatched to Normandy in June 1944 arrived intact due to Allied air attacks. Michael Wittmann's celebrated action at Villers-Bocage on June 13, 1944, where his command destroyed 14 tanks, 15 personnel carriers, and 2 anti-tank guns, became a German propaganda victory. However, within 72 hours, the British 7th Armored Division had received complete replacements for all lost vehicles. Wittmann's company, which lost 3 Tigers, would wait 6 weeks for replacements. Lieutenant Colonel Cloudsley Thompson later wrote, "Brilliance is exhaustible. Industrial production is not. He could destroy our tanks faster than we could brew tea, but we could replace our tanks faster than he could reload."
Logistics compounded the crisis. American logistics, relying on the Red Ball Express and massive petroleum production, delivered 150 gallons of fuel and 104 rounds of ammunition without fail for the Shermans. A Tiger, however, consumed 2.75 gallons per mile on roads and required premium, high-octane fuel that Germany could barely produce. By late 1944, Tiger units were often immobilized by empty fuel tanks, not enemy action. The Maybach engine needed 650 gallons of fuel to go 60 miles. Maintenance was another critical factor. Shermans were designed for maintenance by conscripts. The entire transmission could be replaced in 4 hours, and track replacement took 90 minutes. Technical Sergeant Robert Early described the Sherman as like a farm tractor with armor. Tiger maintenance was a nightmare. Its complex interleaved wheel system required removing up to 9 wheels to replace 1 damaged air wheel, a 12-hour job. The sophisticated transmission and temperamental Maybach engine needed specialized tools and trained mechanics, leading to Tigers sitting useless for months, awaiting parts and cranes. The human mathematics were equally stark. Training a complete Tiger crew required 19 man-months of instruction. Germany was losing these highly trained crews faster than they could be trained. The destruction of Wittmann and his crew meant the loss of 60 man-months of irreplaceable training and years of combat experience. By 1944, Fort Knox was graduating 2,000 fully trained Sherman crews monthly, and 10,000 trained replacements waited in England. By March 1945, American crews averaged 6 months of training, while German Tiger crews averaged 2 weeks. The final mathematical proof came during the Battle of the Bulge in December 1944. Hitler assembled his last reserve of 450 tanks, including 69 King Tigers, against the 8,000 American tanks in the European theater. While individual Tigers achieved tactical victories, the mathematics reasserted itself. The 40 Shermans destroyed on December 17th were replaced by the 19th. General Patton's Third Army, despite losing 88 tanks, had 400 operational Shermans within 48 hours because replacements had exceeded losses. Meanwhile, the famous Kampfgruppe paper abandoned all their Tigers for lack of fuel. Operational readiness rates revealed the ultimate flaw in the German design philosophy. Shermans achieved a 90% operational readiness rate. Mechanical failures were rare and quickly repaired due to simple systems and abundant parts. By late 1944, Tigers achieved only a 35% operational readiness rate. Their complex systems failed constantly. The sophisticated transmission lasted only 500 miles before requiring major maintenance, and the interleaved wheels collected mud that froze in Russian winters. Major Hans Kruger reported in January 1945 that of his 45 King Tigers, only 11 were operational, with the rest awaiting repairs for which no engines or transmissions were available, forcing cannibalization. When Germany surrendered on May 8, 1945, the production tallies confirmed the outcome. Germany produced approximately 1,839 Tigers, including King Tigers. America produced 49,234 M4 Shermans, with over 51,000 total Allied Shermans. The ratio, 27.7 Shermans for every Tiger. Furthermore, post-war analysis showed that the production time of one Tiger was equivalent to 6 to 26 Shermans, and one Tiger's fuel consumption equaled 5.5 Shermans. Most damningly, one Tiger's maintenance requirements equaled 100 Shermans. The production philosophy that seemed to value machines over men actually saved American lives. Of the approximately 8,000 German Tiger crewmen, fewer than 2,000 survived the war, a 75% casualty rate. Of the 250,000 American tank crewmen trained, only 6,500 died in combat, a 2.6% casualty rate. As Sergeant John Irwin, who had 3 Shermans shot out from under him, explained, "We were taught that tanks were expendable, crews were not. Bail out fast, walk back, get another tank." The Germans fought like their Tigers were made of gold, because to them they were. They died trying to save machines. We lived by abandoning them. At a 1975 reunion at Fort Knox, German tank ace Otto Karius, with over 150 kills, admitted, "We were fighting mathematics, not Americans. I could destroy 10 Shermans and 20 would appear. It was not combat, but arithmetic." Sergeant Wardell Henderson, who commanded 5 different Shermans, provided the ultimate conclusion. "I never wanted to face a Tiger. One-on-one, we'd lose every time, but we never fought one-on-one. The Tiger was the better tank. The Sherman was the winner's tank." The ultimate truth, as former Tiger commander Friedrich Schultz stated in 1989 at the American Cemetery above Omaha Beach, was that Germany came with the world's best tanks, convinced of its superiority, and the Allies came with good enough tanks and overwhelming numbers. He concluded, "We fought with excellence. You fought with arithmetic." In war, arithmetic always wins. Germany lost the war in the factories of Detroit long before they lost it on the battlefields of Europe. The 49,234 to 1,347 ratio remains the only number that mattered. The mathematical proof that in industrial warfare, the assembly line defeats the craftsman's bench every single time.